Greetings all, I'm Gab, and welcome to another episode of Good or Bad. This is the show where I review movies by talking about the good and bad stuff about them. And let me ask you all one question. Who here likes anime?
I think everyone has at least seen one Japanese animated movie, and when most people think of Japanese animated movies, they instantly think of the works of Hayao Miyazaki, largely regarded as one of the greatest animation directors of all time, bringing us such classics as Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and Ponyo.
And one of his classics is what I'm reviewing today. This is My Neighbor Totoro.
Released in Japan in 1988 and produced by Studio Ghibli, My Neighbor Totoro is the story of two young girls who move into an old house next to a large forest inherited by spirits. The film was re-released by Disney on March 7th of 2006 with a full English dub of it.
And that's the version I'm going to talk about today. So, without further ado, let's begin.
The animation. Miyazaki definitely knows how to give some stunning animation that's just wonderful to look at. In this case, we've got some nice colours that aren't too bright nor too dark. A perfect balance. And it knows when to slow down or when to speed up while still giving us realistic movement. The characters. One thing I simply adore in any Hayao Miyazaki film is how the characters are written. They're written like real life people, and thus making them more relatable. Our main characters are two sisters called Satsuki and Mei. Though some may see them as annoying, they still act like real life kids given the right circumstances. The spirits of the forest bring us that fantasy element that gives Studio Ghibli films that special charm that we all love despite that they're not on screen for that long. As for the rest of the characters, like the spirits, they don't get much focus, but they still feel real. They get happy, they get sad, they get angry, and every time they feel legit. The voice acting. Usually in English dubs, the voice acting is usually quite terrible, but in Studio Ghibli films, the dubbing is surprisingly good. Satsuki and Mei are voiced by Dakota Fanning and her younger sister, Ellie Fanning. I think it was a good idea to use two girls who are actually sisters in this. The rest of the actors do great as well. I especially love Frank Welker as Totoro and the other spirits. He's also well known for voicing classic cartoon villains like Dr. Claw and Megatron. The music. The music is composed by Joe Hisashi, who pretty much composes the music for every Studio Ghibli film, and he gets the tone perfectly in every single one of them. Seeing as this is a film mostly targeted for younger audiences, he gives it a very light tone as well as a hint of wonder that would fit perfectly within the imagination of any child. The story. One of the things I love about these movies is how realistic the stories feel despite sometimes having fancy elements in them. Here, the story is as simple as you can get. It's the life of this family living in an old house next to the forest full of spirits. That's about it. And by realistic, I mean it doesn't resort to the three-act structure like every other movie ever made. And plus, I'm a huge fan of films that do that. Simply showing a life is all you need to make an interesting movie, especially if you don't know which direction it's headed.
And that was My Neighbor Totoro. So in conclusion... Wait... Aren't I supposed to talk about the bad stuff about this movie? Well, the only thing that comes to mind is the story. Let's rewind back to the story for a moment.
Whilst I have no problem with the story, I do need to consider how other people might feel about it. I know that a lot of people really like the three-act structure and stuff like that, so they might consider the film distracting or even, in the worst case scenario, boring. Most because there doesn't seem to be much going on in this film and they're desperately waiting for Totoro or anything else to pop up. On the other hand, there is kind of a plot in the last third of the movie where the girl's mother is forced to stay in hospital even longer and that the younger sister, Mei, runs away, and the others have to find her. But honestly, with everything else in this movie, it works, because watching this last third made me realise that this isn't just any other kids movie. It's a movie that puts you in a childlike perspective, and it does a wonderful job at that.
Now with that part taken into account, I can finally come to a conclusion about this movie.
I can definitely say this is one of the most perfect family films out there. It's bright and colourful, the characters are all likeable and you remember all of them. It's fun and creative, and it knows how to appeal to both children and their parents watching it with them. And judging by its recent release on Blu-ray, it definitely is, and always will be, a true classic. So I give it a rating of 4.5 out of 5.
That's all for now, and see you all next time.